Hey guys, Steve here, and last time we completed a run of Pokemon Blue with only a Kabuto. This run is going to be Bellsprout. Yes, that's right, everyone's favorite leafy boy. Bellsprout is an interesting Pokemon. Bellsprout isn't available in Red version, so I didn't get to use it much growing up. But I do get to face Erica's Victory Bell every single run, so I know how good its evolved form can be. All 3 Easter eggs were located in the last video. This video is going to have 3. Here are the comments that found Easter eggs from the last video. I am writing this script after the run. Please try and guess in the comments section which parts you think will be the hardest. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on future videos. If you want to help this channel grow, please comment Living Plant for the YouTube algorithm. The rules are going to be the same as they always are. They will be located in the description section of this video, or pause the screen if you'd like to see them. First off, we're going to start the game by grabbing our level 5 Bellsprout and replacing Bulbasaur with the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to make sure that Champ has a Charizard. Charizard is most certainly going to be the hardest starter for us to face. It's going to be much faster than our Bellsprout even at max level, and it's going to be able to defeat us easily with a flamethrower. So it was the obvious choice. I give it the nickname Poison Ivy. I thought it was a pretty cool play on words since it's a pretty dangerous plant. I set Game Hook to give it perfect DVs before starting. The first champ battle is an easy one. All I really have to do is use one growth and then the rest are Vine Whips. Honestly, this battle goes down to if champ decides to use one growl or not, because if it uses only Scratch, I will actually lose, but the odds of that are quite low. Bellsprout is a first form Pokemon with quite terrible stats. The stats favor attack and special, but neither of them are exceptionally great. 70 special will help it make great use of growth. The moveset is not very diverse. We have grass, normal, and poison moves only. Grass is probably the least effective offensive move in the entire game, being resisted by 6 types, which will make our choice of moves extremely important. But the real standout move here is that we learn Sleep Powder at level 18. I wish our speed was higher, but sleep is so broken, I guess it's a decent trade-off. Now, from prior experience, I do know that a move such as Vine Whip is not really going to get me past level 9 Weedle in Viridian Force, so I make sure to battle a few Rattatas on the way to make sure I level up, and that way I can still heal before the battle begins. Once battling the bug catcher with the Weedle, I make sure to start off with at least, 4 growths, and then we go ahead and switch over to Vine Whips. It takes about 6 Vine Whips before we finally get our chance for victory. From there, things actually get quite simple, as we don't actually need to train for Brock in this run. We can actually just go straight to him. I do battle the Light Years trainer to make sure I get some extra XP before beginning that battle though. Once the battle begins with Brock, he sends out Geodude and we use one Vine Whip. Boy, that was easy. Then, for Onix, we go ahead and use one more Vine Whip. And now we've won. And we've learned Wrap. Great! As I made it through Mount Moon, I heard a strange sound. I made my way toward this sound. It's coming from the Helix fossil. It's saying,
"Please like, subscribe, and comment Living Plant."
It sounds like sound logic, but I need to make my way towards Misty. Once we arrive in Cerulean City, the choice between Champ 2 and Misty is a very simple one. Because we're grass type, Misty is going to avoid using her water moves, therefore making her only use Tackle. Well, you know what? We've got a grass move, so Misty's going to be a real easy battle. Once we face Misty, she starts out with Staryu, and we go ahead and use Vine Whip. Vine Whip does about half damage, and then the next Vine Whip takes out Staryu, taking us to Starmie. Then Starmie hits for massive damage with a critical hit Tackle, followed by using some more Vine Whips. But she is able to eventually overpower us and take us out. Now, that first attempt was very brazen. Well, this time we're going to play a little bit smarter and we're going to go ahead and use Sleep Powder. On this next attempt, I'm actually going to set Staryu to sleep, and while it's asleep, I'm actually going to take advantage of the situation and go ahead and use a few growths. Once the growths have run out, then I go ahead and switch to Vine Whip and take it out. Then, for Starmie, I'm going to go ahead and put it to sleep, but I missed the first Sleep Powder and the second one managed to hit. Now I've got no choice but to use the next 2 Vine Whips, and thankfully it stays asleep. Then, I'm going to go ahead and pick up the rare candy to the north of the town. For defeating Misty, I am now level 20, which will help in the damage rounding as I've mentioned in the previous episodes. Champ is then going to start out with his usual Pidgeotto as we go ahead and put it to sleep. Then, we're going to go ahead and set up one growth as we then put it right back to sleep. Now, for first attempts, things usually go a little haywire. I then use a wrap to see just how much damage it's going to do, which isn't very much. Then I switch over to a resisted Vine Whip, which also doesn't do very much. I then put it right back to sleep and then finish it off with some more Vine Whips. Once taking care of it, we then level up and I get rid of Stun Spore as we just have no need for it. On Abra, I'm then able to finish using the rest of our growth setup, which will allow me to go into the rest of the battles very prepared. Because we just leveled up off of the Pidgeotto. Now, let's go ahead and see how it goes with Rattata as I then use Wrap, which misses, but then the next Wrap hits and takes it out in one turn. For Charmander, I then stick to Wrap and it goes ahead and takes out Charmander. I then don't run into any issues on Nugget Bridge or south of Cerulean, so I make my way to the SS Anne, in which I then pick up the rare candy. Next is Champ 3, and without Body Slam or Dig, this one's going to be probably a little difficult. I go ahead and set Pidgeotto to sleep and set up 2 growths. I then put it right back to sleep and then set up 3 more growths. Now, our attack stat is going to be pretty decent and we're going to go ahead and switch to Acid to take out Pidgeotto. We then level up, reducing our attack stat right back to normal. But that's fine as we then take out Raticate and then take out Kadabra. But now we're only at 8 HP left for Charmeleon. I go ahead and attempt to put it to sleep and it hits us with an Ember, taking us down to 1. Then I've got a decision to use either another Sleep Powder or Acid. I go for the win with Acid, but unfortunately it outspeeds and takes me out with Ember. On the next attempt, I only use 3 growths on Pidgeotto before taking it out, but I do have a Sand Attack, causing me to have low accuracy. I then go against Kadabra, in which my acids continue to miss and I get taken out with a Confusion. All the stars then aligned on the next attempt as we then miss a Sleep Powder. But then, as we're about to lose, our next Sleep Powder lands and then we can take it out with some acids. Following that victory, we then head over to Lieutenant Surge's gym, in which this one should be a very easy battle. We resist electricity, as you can see in the bottom hand side of the screen. Surge then starts out with his Voltorb, which, of course, only starts out with a Tackle as we put it to sleep and then start setting up all of our growths. It then decides to wake up, and I just go ahead and finish it off with a Vine Whip instead of continuing. Then, for Pikachu, I decide that it has such weak defenses at only 18 that I go ahead and try and take it out with 1 Acid. It surprisingly survives, and I go ahead and finish it off with the next. With Raichu, I don't want to take any risks, so I go ahead and put Raichu to sleep as I continue to finish it off with Vine Whip that has been powered up by our 3 growths. Now, as we go through Rock Tunnel, it is story time. I've got some fond stories of the Bellsprout line. As a kid, playing Pokemon Yellow, I would go ahead and I'd actually catch a Bellsprout. I thought it was pretty decent. Sleep Powder was a great move. I even recognized the great potential of Growth and Vine Whip. It always frustrated me just how slow it was. And the one thing that I never understood when I was a kid, because you had to have a game guide to know the inner workings of the game, is how do you get a Victory Bell? As a kid, you didn't know which Pokemon actually used the stones. The only stone that I actually knew about was the Thunderstone on Pikachu, and that was only because of the anime. Most of my Pokemon experience is from the anime. I did know about the Evolutions too. But other than that, I mean, who else even knew about the stone evolutions? So, I was there, stuck with Weeping Bell. I think I got it up to like level 40 or 50 before I even bothered to attempt getting rid of it. While I'm also sharing story time because I think I've mentioned it into a prior video, but as a kid, you really just don't know these things. I had a Graveler, upwards of the level 80s. I convinced myself it was going to evolve to a Golem at level 100. Now, of course, I also didn't like the type coverage that the Victory Bell line gave either. As you can see, with Bellsprout, we only get Grass, Poison, and Normal moves, and that just isn't going to cut it. I really liked playing Pokemon with a type coverage that was very diverse, or very powerful. In fact, I favored Pokemon like Gyarados and Dragonite just because they learned every single move that I ever wanted them to. It wasn't until later that I actually learned that both of those Pokemon have a higher attack stat, and I never, ever considered utilizing them for their attack stat than their special. But anyways, Erica is next. Now, for Erica, I knew that this battle was actually going to be a freebie. She has good AI, which means she's going to deprioritize ineffective moves like Razor Leaf and Sleep Powder, and she's going to want to use moves that are extremely effective. I then decide not to learn Razor Leaf, because even though it has a higher damage output and will crit a lot of the time, but it doesn't work well with Growth. I really don't like inconsistent moves, and because we have low base speed, we're not going to crit every time. After defeating Erica, we then get the TM for Mega Drain, and I teach it over Vine Whip. This is because Mega Drain then drains HP from our opponents, and it has 5 more base HP. Seeing as our other grass move that we can obtain is Solar Beam, and I'm not going to use Solar Beam, this seems like the best and most optimal time to upgrade. I then pick up the PP up in Celadon City, followed by the PP up in the Rocket Hideout, and lastly the Rare Candy in the Rocket Hideout. I don't typically pick up this Rare Candy, but for a first form Pokemon, I think we're going to need the extra level. Next, I'm going to go ahead and head to the Celadon Mart and use the money that we obtained from Erica to buy 4 Carbos. I then use the Carbos immediately, and you can see our speed does upgrade, but not by a whole lot. Now, with that injection of speed in hand, it is now time to head over to Champ 4. Champ 4 starts out with Pidgeotto first, and we go ahead and put it to sleep. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we actually got to go first that time. Yeah, there's a big level deficit going on here. Level 25 versus a level 34 is not very fair. But you know, we'll take it. And now we've finally set up all 6 of our growths, and we can go ahead and attempt to sweep the team. Execute is next, and we miss our first acid. So during that battle, we actually managed to take Sand Attack, and now we get put to sleep. So we're going to have to take some barrage attacks until we can finally then wake up and hit it with an acid. This then brings up Gyarados next, and we're going to go ahead and Mega Drain that and replenish all the HP we lost from the previous battle. Kadabra then falls to an acid. Then for Charmeleon, we're going to go ahead and use an acid, which then misses, and our next acid then misses as well. After getting burned, I then attempt to put it to sleep with Sleep Powder. But the Sleep Powder then misses, followed by the next 3 Sleep Powders, and Burn takes us out. But on the next attempt, things go a lot smoother as we put it to sleep and take it down with 2 acids. With that victory in hand, we can then finish off the rest of Pokemon Tower and pick up the Pokeflute. I can then pick up the Rare Candy on Cycling Road, the PP up on Cycling Road, the Carbos in the Safari Zone, the Protein in Safari Zone, and then make our way towards Koga. But before we get to Koga, I run into some problems with the Drowsy Hypno guy, so let's go ahead and take a look at that battle. He's obviously going to start with the Drowsy first. We're going to go ahead and put the Drowsy to sleep and begin to set up. After about 5 uses of growth, he then wakes up, but I don't notice and then use my final growth while he uses a confusion to deal massive damage. I then put it back to sleep and use Mega Drain, which does decent damage and it stays asleep, so we're able to regain quite a bit of the damage. Hypno is next, and we put it to sleep, surprisingly going first, and then use 2 Mega Drains to finish it off. I really like throwing in the battles that we don't lose but end up having a difficult time with the trainer, because they show you that not everything goes smooth on the run even though we have Sleep Powder and Growth. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with the Koga battle, because, well, his Pokemon are slow, so we should be able to Sleep Powder, but then again, we don't have any effective moves against his Pokemon, so what are we really going to do during those turns of sleep? I guess we're just going to have to take a first attempt and just see how it goes. Koga then starts off with his coughing, as usual, where we go ahead and put it to sleep and then begin to set up with Growth. Oddly enough, while he was asleep, he was then able to use 2 X attacks. I put it right back to sleep and continue setting up with Growth. After my growth setup is complete, I then use an acid and find out just how weak it is, so I switch to Mega Drain and it does a lot better. Now, for Muck, I go ahead and put it to sleep and then I use an acid. The reason why I'm using acid here instead of Mega Drain is I think I'm going to run out of Mega Drains when it comes to Weezing. Weezing has pretty decent defenses and I can't really take a self-destruct, so I need to make sure to put it to sleep. Then, the second coughing goes down just the same way the first coughing goes down, but only using acid this time. We then put Weezing to sleep as it tries to poison us for some reason. I then continue to use Mega Drain until Weezing finally goes down after 4 Mega Drains. Honestly, I was not expecting a first try victory, but I'll definitely take it. Now, I want to do a little bit of a sidebar here to just say that we're a first form Pokemon. We only have 3 resets. I don't do a lot of first form Pokemon here on the channel. This is pretty good. As you guys probably already know, I do mostly evolve Pokemon here on the channel, and that's because I don't have a lot of confidence in myself doing these kind of runs. But after doing the Ammonite run, the Kabuto run, and now the Bellsprout run, I definitely feel a lot more confident in myself at doing solo Pokemon challenges. So go ahead and recommend any Pokemon now. I'll go ahead and take my shot at anything except for, the impossible ones. The Weedles, the Kakunas, the Magikarps. I'm not going to go ahead and take those trolls, but I feel good. Next, we're going to go ahead and pick the Carbos on the 10th floor, the Rare Candy on the 10th floor, the Protein on the 5th floor, the Calcium on the 7th floor, and the TM for Swords Dance on the 7th floor. I'm not sure if we're going to need Swords Dance or not. We have a mixture of both hacking and special moves, so both Growth and Swords Dance have their uses, and Swords Dance can only be used 3 times, whereas Growth can be used 6 times. But just in case we actually need it, we run into a big challenge, it's nice to have Swords Dance as a backup. Champ 5 is next, and he starts out with his Pidgeot, as we go ahead and attempt to put it to sleep. But this Pidgeot has insomnia, as it's able to dodge our sleep powders, and whenever they do land, they only last for like 1 turn. But on the next attempt, things go a little bit better, as our first sleep powder manages to hit, and that allows us to finally set up with our growths. Which then, we switch over to Acid and take down Pidgeot slowly. Execute is but a single Acid. For Gyarados, we then attempt to put it to sleep and fail twice, but luckily it only uses 2 Leers, which actually is kind of a benefit to us. Then we go ahead and finish it off with a Mega Drain and an Acid. Thanks to all of the badge boosts, Acid is strong enough to take down Alakazam. Unfortunately, we do level up, and now we have to take an Ember from Charizard, which isn't too bad for now, but it will be unlocking more moves than Ember in the near future. Thanks to our level up on Champ 5, it's a good idea to go ahead and take on Sabrina next. She starts off with her usual Kadabra, and we go ahead and attempt to put it to sleep first, but it outspeeds and hits us for a massive sleep powder. I then get off 3 growths while it manages to stay asleep, and then I go ahead and finish it off with an Acid. With all of that completed, you can probably imagine how this is going to go. For Mr. Mime, we're going to go ahead and put it to sleep, then we're going to go ahead and finish the rest of our setups with growth, and then we're just going to go ahead and finish it off with a Mega Drain to replenish some of that HP we lost. Now for Venomoth, we're going to go ahead and put it to sleep here, but unfortunately we just miss, and then it wakes up immediately, twice. But afterwards we finally get to use a Mega Drain, which does absolutely nothing, even with 6 growth set up. So after a successful sleep powder the second time, I managed to finish it off with an Acid. And then for Alakazam, we're going to go ahead and put it to sleep, but it wakes up, and then we miss, and it finishes us off. On the next attempt, Mr. Mime just doesn't want to stay asleep, and it finishes us off with a Confusion. Then, on the following attempt, Kadabra decides that it also doesn't want to go to sleep and finishes off with a Psybeam. After that loss, I finally get a dose of reality, as Kadabra was not meant to actually be beaten that easily, because our weak little Bellsprout is not able to consistently put it to sleep and set up as easily as we had done on that first or second attempt. But after a few losses, we finally make it back to Alakazam, and this time it does go to sleep, and we're able to take it out with 2 Acids. Finally, with that badge in hand, we can make our way south to Cinnabar Island. In the mysterious Pokemon Mansion, I make sure to pick up the Calcium on the 2nd floor, Iron on the 3rd floor, Carbos on the 1st floor, Rare Candy in the basement, and other rare candy in the basement. Then back to Fuchsia to pick up the rare candy behind the stone. With all that in hand, it's finally time to take on Blaine, which I've been trying to put off for quite some time now, but it's inevitable. The Blaine battle begins, and we go ahead and face Growlithe. We're gonna go ahead and set it to sleep, and then we're gonna go ahead and use Growth. I mean, that's how every battle has started up to this point. Put it back to sleep, and then some more Growth. Once we're finally ready, we can then go ahead and switch to Acid and take out Growlithe. Luckily, we don't level up, and we can go ahead and put Ponyta to sleep and take it out with acid as well. Now, for Rapidash, luckily, thanks to all of our growths, we're going to outspeed, and we're going to put it to sleep and take it out with some acid as well. Arcanine is next, and we miss our sleep powder and get hit by a massive critical hit Ember, ignoring all of our stat boosts, but luckily, Arcanine decides to stay asleep, and we can take it down with some acids. We can now head over to the gym where I think I actually stand the best chance of winning other than Brock and Erica, because Giovanni is just terrible, and thankfully we have Mega Drain and Growth on our side today. Giovanni obviously starts out with Rhyhorn as usual. I don't even bother to heal up at the Pokemon Center because I think this battle is going to be a cakewalk. I go ahead and put Rhyhorn to sleep, set up all of my growths, and then I'm going to switch over to Mega Drain and turn Rhyhorn into a Super Potion. Next up is Dugtrio and the last challenge of the team. Unfortunately, it really doesn't stand much of a chance since all of our growths are still in play and we didn't level up to that point. But for the rest of this battle, it's really going to be easy. If any moves hit us, we're just going to regain all of the HP back with growth, and then he's taken care of quite quickly. Now that all of the gyms are taken care of, we probably are going to have the maximum amount of money that we're going to have for the rest of the game. So I make sure to head over to the Celadon Mart and make sure to pick up 5 calciums. Now, because our strategy is use growth 6 times, imagine we're going to have 5 extra special every single time we boost with growth. This is going to make our hits with Mega Drain massive. Now, this isn't my first time facing Champ 6, so I preemptively use a rare candy just to see where we stand. I go ahead and put Pidgeot to sleep and start setting up all of our growths, which will last throughout the rest of the battle, hopefully. Once all of the growths are then set up, we can go ahead and use Acid to take out Pidgeot. I don't really need to worry about the damage from Pidgeot because I can just heal up on Rhyhorn. Then, for Execute, we're just going to go ahead and take it out with an Acid. Next up is Gyarados, and I go ahead and put it to sleep and take it out with a few Mega Drains, being a little bit greedy there, not using any acid. Alakazam is the real reason I used a rare candy at the start of the battle, because as you can probably tell, if we had not set up all of those growths, these Psychics would do massive damage, because we have a 2x weakness to Psychic moves. We're going to go ahead and take out Alakazam with our powered up Mega Drains. Unfortunately, we do level up, and our speed is now diminished to way below Charizard. And we're going to have to go ahead and attempt to put Charizard to sleep here as it hits us with some pretty decent flamethrowers. If he hit us with a critical at any point, it would have been over right there. But he does still burn us, and now we have to face a clock. Hopefully Charizard doesn't wake up, because if he wakes up, we're going to have to waste a turn on sleep and probably lose. But luckily he doesn't wake up and we take him out. We're going to need to be a significantly higher level going into Charizard so we don't level up. But unfortunately, I just don't think that's really going to happen, so that battle's not going to get any more consistent. As we make our way through Victory Road, I make sure to pick up the rare candy, and that's about it. I pretty much go ahead and just buy my 4 full restores and then use a rare candy before Lorelei and just see how this next battle's gonna go. Lorelei goes ahead and starts with her first Dugong. We're gonna go ahead and try and put it to sleep, but it only uses rest. Then, we're gonna go ahead and set up with some growths. It wakes up, but I then don't put it back to sleep and it hits me with a pretty decent Aurora Beam. Unfortunately, it just doesn't want to stay asleep, and I just do not put it back to sleep, and it hits me with a critical hit Aurora Beam to take me out. On the next attempt, I go ahead and put Dugong to sleep, then set up with all of my growths, and then once it wakes up, I actually put it right back to sleep, and then I just go ahead and take it out with a Mega Drain. Now that we're fully set up, Cloyster can be taken out with a Mega Drain, followed by the Slowbro with a Mega Drain. Then, the Jinx, it's going to be a little bit slower as we're going to use 2 acids, but goes down just as easily. And then for Lapras, we're going to switch back to Mega Drain and almost one-shot it. We don't get frozen and get the win. The next battle is going to be another one of those freebie battles, because Mega Drain will just be able to crush every single thing on the Black Belts team. But, you know, you got to take a look at the battle anyways. Battle then starts off with him using its Onix. I don't use a Mega Drain to start off. I make sure to put it to sleep, set up all of my growths because we just recently leveled up, and then we're going to go ahead after setting up and use a Mega Drain. Then, for Hitmonchan with its low special, I then decided to use an Acid for no reason and switch to Mega Drain. Then, for Hitmonlee, Mega Drain, followed by Onix, in which is another Mega Drain, and then, for Machamp, another Mega Drain. I then switch to Acid because if I use an Elixir, I'm gonna go up to 14 Mega Drains and not my maximum of 16. So I beat him a little bit slower. Agatha is gonna be the scariest battle of the run. As you guys probably know from the Vileplume run, Mega Drain and Acid are not a very good moveset to go up against Agatha with. And we've got a slow Pokemon to boot. But unlike Vileplume, we actually have 6 growths instead of 3 Swords Dance, which should give us a little bit more of an advantage. Agatha then starts off with her Gengar, and of course we don't outspeed, but it just uses a Dream Eater, so now we're going to go ahead and start setting up. Luckily, we're now going to be able to outspeed the Gengar when it finally wakes up, and we put it right back to sleep. Now that we're fully set up, we can go ahead and start using Mega Drain, which does about a 4th. Hopefully, at this rate, we're going to have enough Mega Drains to finish off the rest of Agatha's team. She then swaps into Golbat next, and we go ahead and put it right to sleep, followed by using some Acids. Now, I, of course, forget to put it back to sleep. And what does it use? It uses Haze, and it's going to delay the battle for so much longer than it needs to be. Of course, it doesn't want to stay asleep and tries to confuse us over and over again. But eventually we get through and we can set up 4 times. Then it uses Haze again. Oh, you can't make this up. So it switches into Haunter and we go ahead and set up with some more growths. Then we finally can put Golbat back to sleep as she keeps switching back and forth between sleeping Pokemon. Then we can finally finish our 6 growth setup, heal up with some Mega Drains, take out Haunter. Of course, she's gonna delay the inevitable with some Super Potions. But we eventually do get through Golbat, no matter how much Agatha doesn't want us to. Arbok is next, and well, Arbok is Arbok, so we're gonna go ahead and put it to sleep, use a few Acids. She recognizes that Arbok is an Arbok and switches out into Gengar. Then we're gonna go ahead and just Mega Drain Gengar with the rest of our Mega Drains. We end up being full HP, and we don't even take any damage from the Gengar, which is pretty sweet. After all of this swapping, we're actually not taking any damage from really anything. So other than the Golbat using Haze, this isn't going too bad. We're using a lot of PP and a lot of time, but with a Pokemon like Bellsprout, I'll take time over resets any day. Next up is going to be Lance, and I don't foresee this being much of an issue because we're a poison type, so he's going to use agility with all of his dragons. However, Gyarados is obviously going to be a threat, and so is Aerodactyl. But Aerodactyl's weak to Mega Drain, so it's really just Gyarados. So we really just need to outspeed, put Gyarados to sleep, and then hopefully take it out over time with some Acids or Mega Drain. But that's a theory. Let's go ahead and see how it works in practice. Alright, so Lance starts out with Gyarados as expected. We go for Sleep Powder, and it misses with Leer. Pretty good start. We get to put Gyarados to sleep, start off with some growths. Now we're going to outspeed, put it back to sleep. Now finish off our uses of growth, and then use Mega Drain. So far so good. Let's go ahead and take ourselves over to Dragonair, in which we're just going to go ahead and use some Acids because it's only going to use agility. No point in wasting our good Mega Drains. This then takes us to Aerodactyl, and we didn't level up, so we're actually going to outspeed and put it to sleep. That makes real easy as we just go ahead and one-shot it with the Mega Drain. Which takes us to Dragonite. We'll go ahead and put it to sleep, and we're just going to slowly whittle it down with some Acids. But unfortunately, we did level up in this battle, so now our attack is actually not being powered up by growths anymore, so we should be using Mega Drain. Not to mention, Dragonite is using Barrier, which is going to be reducing the power of our Acids anyways. For some reason, I didn't really use Mega Drain early on because I felt like I wanted to save the PP so my Elixir would store it back to maximum, but it doesn't really matter because this one's won, we're not going to run out of PP, he's already used his Hyper Potion, it's just going to be slow and steady wins the race here. Now guys, take a look, we're going to beat Lance at level 55. I mean, that's got to be the lowest level I've ever gotten to the champion at. I mean, other than Lapras, of course. I picked up every single rare candy in the game except for the one in the power plant, so I've got all of these extra rare candies, and I'm just going to go ahead and not use them and see how it goes. Of course I'm going to use one so I don't level up, but wow, 56. Let's go ahead and take a look and see how it goes. The champion, of course, then starts out with his usual Pidgeot, so we're going to go ahead and put it to sleep, but of course we failed, and it puts us to sleep with a mirror move. Crazy. Then Sky Attack takes us out. Alright, bit unlucky there, but on the next attempt we put Pidgeot to sleep, we go ahead and start setting up with our growths, it wakes up, but it's okay as we outspeed, put it back to sleep, then go ahead and finish off using our growths. Then we're just going to go ahead and whittle it down with a few acids. With 200 speed and 277 attack, you would think that that first acid would one-shot Alakazam. But no, that's alright. We've got the Super Potion and Rhydon next, so it's not a big deal. Exeggutor is then next, and we're going to go ahead and be able to use an acid, which of course it then survives. Probably thanks to a crit, but who knows. We don't have very high attack stat. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because Exeggutor only has Barrage and Stomp, and that's all it can really do to us. But of course it does a ton of damage, which takes us to Gyarados. I'm going to go ahead and put Gyarados to sleep, or so I thought, and it takes us out. Alright, on the very next attempt we make it right back to Gyarados with no issues. Go ahead and use Mega Drain to take it out halfway, and then another Mega Drain to finish it off. This then takes us to Gyarados, in which we don't outspeed and get taken out with a Fire Blast. I actually find this quite amusing because we set up with 6 growths with 570 special, and yet, of course, critical hits bypass all set up. So even though we've got a ridiculous amount of special and, a decent weakness to fire, of course the Fire Blast destroys us. On the very next attempt, we make it right back to Charizard, attempt to put it to sleep, and of course, another critical hit Fire Blast. Guys, I can't make this up. I am fairly certain we can survive a Fire Blast, but a critical hit is the only thing that stops us from winning. On the very next attempt, right back to Charizard, and it puts us in a Fire Spin, which does absolutely nothing, and another critical hit Fire Blast. From the first Charizard battle to this Charizard battle, we have lost literally 3 minutes. Luckily, this is only the first attempt. We make it right back to Charizard. Then there's a little bit of a duel here, but it doesn't make a critical hit. We finally put it to sleep, and we're just Mega Draining it slowly until we can finally and utterly get the win. We finished the game at level 58 with 121 real time, 436 game time, and 17 resets. Bellsprout actually seems to go rather smooth despite the 17 resets. The only thing I really think I need to do is make sure that for certain battles I do not level up. Since I completed the game at a low level and with rare candies to spare, I think that I can just use those rare candies before the important battles and use the rest during the Elite Four. With that said, I'm not really sure there's any move changes to be made, and so I don't really think there's any testing to be done. So I'm just gonna go ahead and move to the next run. But before that, I'd like to do my creator shoutout. Today's creator shoutout is Andrew Davis. I know we've already done him here on the channel before, but he's one of my favorite content creators, and I've gone through just about all of the content creators that I actually watch. So, he does very similar runs to mine, but he's extremely funny. The jokes are sometimes brilliant, sometimes corny, but he's always a good watch. Here's a short clip of one of his most recent videos that I absolutely loved.
And after beating Bubs, I tried to take on Faulkner, but his birds spam Mud Slap, we miss all of our moves, and then we repeatedly lose. It's not even really close. So I head over to the Bellsprout Tower to do the mandatory portion of the story's plot, but even that's pretty awful. Despite being a much higher level, Vine Whips from the level 3 Bellsprouts are doing over half of our health at first, and even after all the battles in the extra levels, you can see during the battle with the final sage that his Bellsprout's Vine Whip does a third of our health. I can't believe I had to grind to level 17 just to get past the friggin' Bellsprout Tower. Or as I like to call it now, the 9th Circle of Bell. Well great, now we're trapped in Violet City until we beat Faulkner, and the only advantage we've gained is the move Bubble. It does about the same damage as Tackle, but it doesn't have a chance to miss. That is, until Faulkner's Flying Freaks start spamming Mud Slap repeatedly, at which point Corsola's accuracy gets so low that we miss literally dozens of attacks and just barely squeak out a victory. And just like Bellsprout Tower, this battle takes many resets and there's not much skill to be had. Just pray you don't miss your moves. What with all the mud slaps, Corsola's eyesight is so bad in this battle, it could bowl a gutter ball even with the bumpers up.
Now back to the run. Now for the second run, I decided to go with a name change. I changed it to Poison Root. Just because while I was playing the game, I was like, well, Bellsprout looks like it's got roots, and like, why not showcase that? The first champ battle is a very simple one. You use one growth, and then spam Vine Whip until you finally win. Doesn't take too long before we get the victory. Then, for Brock, nothing has changed. We go ahead and use one Vine Whip and take care of Geodude, follow with another Vine Whip to take care of Onix. Nothing has changed for the Misty battle either. We're going to go ahead and put Staryu to sleep as soon as we can. Go ahead and try and set up a few times, and then, when we're finally ready, we're going to go ahead and use Vine Whip. Then, for Starmie, we're going to go ahead and just straight up use Vine Whip. But of course, we got a critical hit, and that screwed things up a little bit. But don't worry, we still got the victory. For Champ 2, things are a little bit difficult, as you know, we're going to go ahead and put Pidgeotto to sleep. Then, we're going to go ahead and set up a few times with Growth. While we attempt to put it back to sleep, it then uses Sand Attack and reduces our accuracy, which you can see by the -1 by the HP stat. Once we're done setting up, we can then use Wrap and take Pidgeotto out very slowly. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Wrap here, even though it's got lower accuracy and my accuracy's been lowered because Abra and Rattata have just such weak defenses. And then for Charmander, we're going to go ahead and continue Wrap, but then it starts to miss. So then I decide, well, I should probably consider putting Charmander to sleep and then try Wrap. Which I do, and then get the victory. The third champ battle goes mostly the same way the second champ battle goes. We're going to go ahead and put Pidgeotto to sleep. We're going to go ahead and spam 5 growths. Once we do that, which seems sufficient, we're going to go ahead and use Acid to take out Pidgeotto. From there, things get pretty easy as we go ahead and use Acid on Eradicate, then use another Acid on Kadabra, and then for Charmeleon, I decide to just go with Acid and don't even bother putting it to sleep. This then takes us to Surge, who obviously starts with a Voltorb. We're going to go ahead and put Voltorb to sleep. Then we're going to go ahead and set up some of our growths, obviously putting Voltorb right back to sleep. Once we have a sufficient amount of growths, then we're going to go ahead and switch to attacking with Acid. From there, Pikachu is also one-shot with Acid. Then for Raichu, I'm going to go ahead and use Acid. It uses Growl, so then I switch to Vine Whip to take it down. Up next is our freebie win against Erica, where again, nothing has changed. We're going to go ahead and just spam Growth. There's no reason for Sleep Powder because it's only going to spam Poison Powder, which we resist because we're Poison type. And then we're going to go ahead and take it down with some Acids. For Tangela, nothing has changed. Go ahead and use some Acid. It doesn't bother reducing our speed with Constrict, so that's good. And then for Vileplume, just use Acid as it's only going to use Poison Powder, just like Victory Bell. She tries to delay the inevitable, but we still win. I made sure to add some extra trainers in the early game, so that way we have a little bit extra money here for buying calcium, but also because I'm going to be using rare candies in the most inopportune times later in the game, so I want to make sure that I have just enough levels to make it to the Elite Four. After that, we've got Champ 4, where it goes just about the same, even though he's got some extra new Pokemon. We've got a significantly higher level. We can just go ahead and put Pidgeotto to sleep, set up a handful of growths. I don't even need to set up all of them. Level up, then put Execute to sleep, and start using the rest of our growths, where we can then eventually take down Execute with Acid. From there, things are very simple. Just go ahead and Mega Drain the Gyarados, then go ahead and Acid the Kadabra, and for Charmeleon, I'm not even going to bother putting it to sleep once again. Koga is next, and we're going to make sure to use what we learned from the previous runs, put Coughing to sleep, spam our growths. Mega Drain does a whole heck of a lot more than Acid, so we're going to go ahead and finish off Coughing with a few Mega Drains. Then, for Muck, we're going to go ahead and put Muck to sleep, use some extra Mega Drains, and thanks to the PP ups that I use, we're going to have plenty of Mega Drains for the rest of the battle. Coughing is once again, Sleep Powder, and a few Mega Drains. Now, it appears that I wasn't minding my PP, and I ran out of Sleep Powders. But, you know, we're just going to have to spam Mega Drain, hope it doesn't use Self-Destruct, which, of course, it doesn't, and then we get the win. Jam 5 is next. I make sure to use a rare candy before the start of the battle. I go ahead and put Pidgeot to sleep, and even though it got a critical hit wing attack, we're still fine. We're gonna go ahead and set up our growths, which is just gonna be fine. Then put Pidgeot back to sleep. Then go ahead and finish it off with some Mega Drains to replenish that HP we had just lost. Then execute Simple Acid, followed by Gyarados, in which we have to put it to sleep. Once it's asleep, we're then able to go ahead and finish it off with some Mega Drains and restore that HP we had lost previously. And then for Alakazam, we just go ahead and take it down with an Acid, getting rid of Slam because there's no need for it in this run. For Charizard, just go ahead and put it to sleep whenever possible. Of course, this Charizard manages to burn us just about every time. Not a big deal because we're not really into using Acid against it, but eventually we're just going to go ahead and Mega Drain Charizard down, replenishing the HP that the burn keeps on taking from us, even though it takes a little bit longer than expected. Now, I'm sure you didn't expect to see Giovanni here, but I go into this battle with the burn because I was very confident. Now, I forgot I was only down to 1 Mega Drain, and then I decide, hey, I should consider using this Mega Drain on either Rhyhorn or Kangaskhan. Now, unfortunately, by the time I finish off this Nidorino, I've already lost so much damage to the burn that I have no choice but to use the Mega Drain on Kangaskhan. But now this leaves me with a quad resisted Acid and no other ability to take it out. Now, on the next attempt, I just used one of the elixirs, typically the elixir I use for Bruno, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip ahead to Blaine here. I'm going to put the Growlithe to sleep, make sure to use all of our growths, pretty simple. Then we're going to go ahead and take the Growlithe out with some acids. Now, of course, the Ponyta is going to go down to some acids. I was a little bit worried that we weren't going to take it out in one hit, so I made sure to put it to sleep. Same thing with the Rapidash, I'm not really sure what's going to go on, so I'm just going to take it real safe because we do have a weakness to fire moves, and it goes down, but slowly. Then for Arcanine, same deal, don't want to take a Fire Blast, put it to sleep, take it out with some acids. For Sabrina, I'm sure you're very aware of the strategy by now, but go ahead, use Sleep Powder. Guess what, guys? We're going to use some growth. And then we're going to take down Kadabra. And then do the exact same thing with Mr. Mime with the rest of the growths. And once we do that, we're going to go ahead and take Mr. Mime down with some acids as well. Then for Venomoth, I make sure to go ahead and put that to sleep and use some acids. And then do exactly the same thing with Alakazam. It all went quite according to plan. And Giovanni, I bet you guys could probably guess the strategy once again. Use Sleep Powder, and then use Growth, and then Mega Drain. Then for Dugtrio, same thing, another Mega Drain. For Nidoqueen, same thing, use another Mega Drain. Oddly enough, it did survive a hit. Same thing with Nidoking, not really sure how, but it did. Then for Rhydon, it goes out the same way the Rhyhorn went down. For Rival 6, I'm very prepared, make sure to use a rare candy, then put Pidgeot to sleep, use some growths, and then take it out with an acid. Of course, Rhyhorn goes down with a Mega Drain, then Execute goes down to an acid, then Gyarados goes down to a Sleep Powder, followed by some Mega Drains. This then takes us to Alakazam, where we go ahead and Sleep Powder, take it out with some acids because of bad defense. This then takes us to the Charizard after a level up, where, you know, we're gonna have to take a bit of a risk. Hopefully we don't get burned, but we ended up getting taken out by a crit. Now, there's no reason to make you rewatch the whole thing again. We go ahead and put the Charizard to sleep. We start hitting it with some acids. We never ended up getting burned, and it never wakes up. So the next attempt goes according to plan. Now, I did speed my way through the game a bit, because I'm sure you guys were getting real tired of watching Sleep Powder, Growth, Mega Drain, or Sleep Powder, Growth, Acid. Pretty obvious combos for the entire game. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take the Elite Four a little bit slower, even though the strategy is going to be exactly the same. Lorelei then starts off with her obvious Dugong. We put Dugong to sleep. We're going ahead and set up our growths. Once we're fully set up with growth, we're going to go ahead and switch over to sleep powder for some reason. Then I decide, oh yeah, I could one-shot it, and then I do. Then for Cloyster, Mega Drain one-shots it. Slowbro, Mega Drain one-shots it. We're going to go to Jinx, which it doesn't get one-shot, so we're going to need to put it to sleep before it hits us with an ice move, in which it gets taken out with some acid. For Lapras, we're going to go ahead and use a few Mega Drains. It does survive, but I'm pretty sure it would have survived anyways. Now, the Black Belt, of course, is going to be very easy. Same strategy. I'm going to go ahead and use Growth. I'm not really worried about any of Onyx's moves. It doesn't have anything that's super effective. Rock Throw is 1 times effective. Slam and Rage do basically nothing. Then for the rest of his Pokemon, after I'm fully set up, easy Mega Drains. Machamp, the only Pokemon that gets an attack in, gets to use a Leer. Very easy victory. Agatha, I'm sure you guys already know, could get very dicey. So let's go ahead and take a look. Sleep Powder, of course, deciding not to hit, but, you know, it's not that bad. We're going to go ahead and start setting up our growths. We finally are going to outspeed the Gengar, then continue putting it to sleep, but we're going to have problems putting it to sleep. Luckily, we're going to be using Mega Drain on these ghost types, so it's not a big deal if we take a bit of damage on the Gengar as long as it doesn't take us out, but unfortunately it does use 3 Nightshades and we do go down. On the next attempt, we're going to go ahead and take a bit of confusion, but our Sleep Powder surprisingly lands, then go ahead and use 2 growths, put Gengar right back to sleep, continue using growths, we do outspeed the Gengar, then it just doesn't want to stay asleep, but unfortunately for her, I'm actually on my A game and I am putting it on sleep on time, except for that last move, and now I'm going to hit myself, take a Nightshade, but it's okay, it does go down. Golbat was quite a source of my anger before because it had used Haze, and what do you know, it uses Haze once again. Whatever, we're going to go ahead and set up here on the Golbat after we finally put it to sleep. Once we've finally fully set up, we can then go ahead and take the Golbat down with a handful of acids, but unfortunately I am not paying attention, I don't put it back to sleep, and I take myself out. On the next attempt, I go ahead and put Gengar to sleep, I attempt to set up with Growth, she swaps out to Golbat, Golbat immediately uses Haze, swaps in to the already sleeping Gengar, so then we finish the rest of our setup. I can then use Acid for some reason, forgetting that, of course, my Mega Drain does a whole heck of a lot more damage. She, of course, puts me to sleep, I hit myself, she swaps into Golbat, so now my Sleep Powder misses, it wakes up, then I put it back to sleep, and then I start using Acid because it's going to do more damage than Mega Drain. Eventually, the Golbat does go down, in which we can go to the Gengar. Now that we outspeed, we can go ahead and start getting some of our HP back, take out the Gengar, then outspeed the Haunter, switches out, thankfully. We don't take a whole lot from Arbok, put the Haunter to sleep, start restoring our HP, and then continue taking Haunter out. We swaps back into Arbok. I mean, like, this battle is so crazy, I can't even talk about it the right way. But anyways, take out Arbok with Acid, she swaps into Gengar, of course Gengar doesn't want to sleep, then use the rest of our Mega Drains, but of course it's gotta wake up, I've gotta not notice, it confuses me, so now the game's back to 50-50. Luckily, I get all the 50-50 coin flips and win. But wow, that was something. Now that Agatha's been taken care of, we can finally go into Lance. With Lance, we're gonna just go ahead and put Gyarados to sleep, use our growths, we're gonna go ahead and once we're fully set up, make sure to use Mega Drain to return the HP that we had lost thanks to that Hyper Beam that ended up going through because of our missed Sleep Powder. From there, we can finally be very happy that the Dragonairs can't do a single thing to us, so we take it out with an Acid, take down the next one with some Acid. The Aerodactyl can't really do much to us, except for maybe use Supersonic, but thanks to our badge boosting, we get to outspeed and take it out with some Mega Drains. And for Dragonite, I put it to sleep so it doesn't have a chance to use Barrier before I start using Acid this time, because I'm a little bit smarter this time. Alright, the champion. We're gonna go ahead, put Pidgeot to sleep. Step 1, complete. We're gonna go ahead and set up with our growths. Step 2, basically complete. Just need to use the last of these growths, then go ahead and finish off Pidgeot with some acids. Next up on the docket, make sure to outspeed and then take out Alakazam with some acids. Of course. It's so simple. Then for Rhydon, we're gonna use some Mega Drain. Yeah, it's like nothing ever happened. Then for Executor, we're gonna go ahead and put it to sleep and take it out with acid. Because, you know, we are. For Gyarados, put it to sleep, make sure it falls asleep, use Mega Drain because it's the most effective move we have, and that takes us to Charizard, in which it misses Fire Blast for like the first time ever, and we're gonna slowly whittle it down with some acid. Now let's see if it stays asleep, because this is a lot of turns. It stayed asleep, and we won. We finished the game at level 61 with 104 real time, 407 game time, and 4 resets. This is amazing. It's the first Pokemon I have ever used on the entire channel, including Alakazam, that didn't use all of the rare candies. I cannot tell you how amazing that is. And we're only level 61 with the first form Pokemon. The only thing disappointing is the time. And that's because we have to constantly put things back to sleep, but more importantly, we have to use 6 growths just about every important battle, and that takes a lot of time. That's why it's not going to be on the same tier as Vileplume. As far as the rankings are concerned, it functioned basically the same as Ammonite. Same strategies, different moves. With a slightly faster time and a lower amount of resets, second in the A tier seems like a good spot to put it. Thanks to the comments from my previous videos, I have chosen to do Dugong next. If you'd like a Pokemon to be done, make sure to comment on this or any of my other videos. If you'd like to become a patron to be put in the Pokérap at the end of the video, make sure to do that, links in the description. If you have any suggestions for a challenge, ways to improve my strategy, maybe even a way to improve the quality of my videos, feel free to let me know in the comments section below. My channel is always improving, in every video I plan to bring you even better content. Keep the suggestions coming, and I look forward to bringing you another video. Now, Pokérap time.